Hello, everybody. It's Romania Black. We're on episode 13 of Violet Evergarden. It's the last episode of the series, but I don't feel that sense of finality yet because there's still 2 feature-length movies to watch after this. So I'm not sad yet. I'm sad it's the last episode of the series because I kind of want to keep going on adventures with Violet, but at the same time, I am really excited for the movies and to see what'll happen. So when we get to the last movie, then I'll probably feel that weight of it being concluded. I'll feel that when we get to the movies. But right now, it doesn't feel like it's ending. So it doesn't feel like the end of a season, right? And maybe there's just something to that. But this last episode, it wasn't sad so much as I was like on adrenaline the whole time. Like the whole thing with Diethard and Violet working together and them confronting the anti-peace regime there on the train, and then both Diethard and Violet sacrificing themselves to save the other while still airing their grievances and their grief about Gilbert being dead. It's amazing and I love it. And I was so hyped up last episode that I was like, I instantly wanted to watch this episode. But I was like, no, I'm going to wait and let it sink in a little bit. And I've rewatched the episode a few times. I really like episode 12. It's really good because it's just, I like action shows that incorporate that emotion. And, you know, episodes 7 through 11 were great, but God, they were like emotionally taxing. And this episode was a lot of fun and was also emotional too. So it was there was a little bit of levity there, but the action stuff kept you from getting completely wrapped up in sadness, knowing that Violet and Diethard are both grieving the loss of Gilbert. And Diethard blaming Violet in a lot of regards for not protecting him, Violet blaming herself. There's a lot of blame going around, but I'm really excited. I couldn't wait. I've waited a couple days, but not a week. You know, I waited a week between episode 10 and 11, and I waited a week between episodes 11 and 12, but I couldn't wait a week for this one. So if y'all comment on something in episode 12, I'm sorry if I don't bring it up here, but I'll answer your comments in the comment section, but maybe I'll bring it up in time for the movie. But I'm just really, really excited to get into this final episode and see what all goes down. They've got a lot to wrap up, so I'm assuming the brooch. Where's the brooch? She's got to get the brooch back. I'm assuming that the Brigadier General, is he going to be out of the picture? Are they going to arrest him? The guy Isidore, it looked like he was going to die because Diethard shot him. So, and then it looked like Violet ricocheted the bomb with her hands. So, and they still have the peace treaty. It looked like, rewatching the episode, I was curious during the reaction about the envoy, but rewatching the episode, the envoy was with Catalina and Benedict, so he was safe. So that's good. But I'm just so curious how they're going to wrap this up. And is she going to write the letter or not? Is she going to write Gilbert the letter, or are they saving that for the movies? I don't know. But I'm excited to get into this episode, y'all. Again, I don't feel sad yet because we still have 2 feature-length movies to watch about Violet, so I feel like when I get to that second movie, then I'm going to start feeling like it's the end of the series, but we shall see. I'll talk a little bit about afterwards, I'm sure, but let's get into this, shall we? So let's start episode 13 of Violet Evergarden, and we are going to start that here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Oh, that was such a low-key episode. I'm glad we have 2 movies because I didn't want it to end, and it felt like an ending, but at the same time it didn't, right? It felt like there needed to be an epilogue. It felt like there needed to be something else. Something else was needed there. It just felt, it's the weirdest feeling because I feel like it was resolved and there was resolution, but at the same time, there wasn't. So, I just, oh man. I talked about this in the last episode, but Violet's relationship with Diethard is probably one of the most fascinating aspects about this show because Diethard as a character interests me a lot. I really have a stickler. I really have a thing for characters that come across one way, but you clearly know there's stuff underneath the surface, right? So Diethard has been cruel to Violet this entire series, and he, up until this episode, He's been cruel. I say that up until the last 2 episodes, he's been cruel to her, and he says really awful things to her and makes her feel horrible, and he guilt trips her a lot. But at the same time, you watch him and you see his expressions and all the nonverbal communication he does when Violet's not around, and you clearly see that there's something else there. And in this episode, just like extending off the last episode, we see that a lot of it has to do with his grief towards his brother. And then I'm glad that Diethard is self-aware and realizes how he's been treating her this whole time. It's like, yes, you've been treating her as a tool instead of a human being, and he finally gets it. It takes him the whole series to get it, that she's a person. And Gilbert kind of hits it on the head too in that flashback. I can't believe we got an extension of that flashback too, but man, this episode, the resolution of that conflict. The guy got away. He either got away or he died in the river, one of the two. But he was bleeding from the abdomen, so I don't know if he would get back or not. But us going back to that fight at the very beginning, oh my gosh. And I like that this show is real and self-aware enough to know that the Brigadier General eventually runs out of bullets. Because I kept being like, is he going to run out of bullets? And then he does. And so, but he shoots her, and he shoots her arm. And it's like getting her to get away from face. And I like that. And okay, so Diethard did shoot him, and that's why he was bleeding. But the whole thing with her arm, like getting her arms detached, all the strings and wires and everything, like the doll just becoming unraveled. And Diethard noticing it. The tool I discarded became Gilbert's pet. But she wasn't. That's the thing. That's probably what he's been thinking this whole time. He was thinking from the start that because back in the early part, way back when Gilbert and Violet first met, Diethard was like, don't get too attached to her, like treating her like a dog. And for a while, you think that he probably thought that that's all she was to Gilbert, the tool I discarded. But after losing both her arms and her master and everything else in the world, there she was, still standing. So she's still, and that ties back to why he's like, then what are you? He's like, a tool has to be used by somebody. A tool can't function unless it has a purpose, unless someone's using it. And no one's using you anymore. So you can't be a tool, and you can't be a dog without a master. So what are you? And the fact of the matter is, she's still standing there. She's still flesh and blood. She's a person. And that's the thing that he realizes. And that he's probably has realized for quite some time now. It's just he doesn't want to admit it. Because admitting it would admit that you've done all these horrible things to her and that she's a human and look what you've done. You know, and so that would just add to Diethard's guilt too. But they come out of the tunnel right when he runs out of bullets. And I'd forgot about the bomb at this point. I was like, oh yeah, the bomb on the bridge. And so, yeah, he tries to jump off and she keeps him from jumping away. And she's like, nah, man. And then for a split second, I thought when Diethard got the brooch, he was going to keep it or throw it away. Because I was like, are you going to be that asshole, Diethard? I'm giving you I'm playing devil's advocate for you. What are you going to do? And then he gives it back to her. He gives it back. Oh my gosh. And that look on her face when he sees, I love that we see Gilbert and Diethard's mother, and she has the same like bone structure as them. Like they both take after her, and except Gilbert has her eyes. But she looks like so, like when she grabs the brooch, that's like the most relief she's had this entire time that she has it back. And in that moment, Diethard looking at her, like he gets it. He knows what that feeling is like. That's love. It's love, damn it! That's what it is. And her clutching it to her. And then she looks up at him, and they both look at each other, and her thanking him, and he's just like, And then that's when the Brigadier General's like, oh yeah, the bridge, remember? You know that Diethard thinks in that moment that he understands exactly what Violet feels for that brooch, because it's a symbolic representation of Gilbert's love. And Diethard knows what that feels like, and he has that for his brother. It's like, There's moments in this episode, especially when we flash back to Gilbert, that Gilbert looks a lot like Diethard. Like, the brothers look like each other quite a bit. And I like that Kyoani, again, the animation this episode. The animation. Top notch, top tier. But I love the fact that their animation is so good that at times Gilbert and Diethard look like brothers, but they still look distinct. They still look like you can tell them apart. And it's like, that's so good. But yeah, so them trying to disarm the bomb. Benedict, my dude, my MVP. Holy shit, Benedict just coming in clutch, man. Because, Violet's roaming around with one arm. There's 2 bombs on the bridge. They're trying to stop the train. Diethard, and the whole time, Benedict, in freaking heels. In heels, being a damn fashionista. And then, Diethard watches the Brigadier General fall. We're assuming he's going to die because he doesn't want to die in the explosion. And then, Violet and Benedict getting shit done in heels. Jurassic World be damned. These people get things done well in high heels. And I like that she tries to use her arm to take off the other bomb and to rip it off of the bridge. And then, so Benedict getting the other bomb, I'm on it. And then I like that Diethard's like, are they actually going to do it? And Benedict, my dude, solid, taking the heels, and he kicked the bomb off. What a champ. What a pro. And then, grab it on the edge. Dude grabbed it on the edge of the bridge one-handed. Like, Benedict is freaking strong. Like, come on, y'all. I think we've not given Benedict enough credit in this series. And Diethard watching her try to disarm everything and doing everything she can to disarm it to the point where she breaks her hand. But she still grabs on. She's like, no. And I love that we see her eyes. And she's like, even if it destroys me, even if it tears my arm off, I'm going to rip it off. And she's like, nah. And then, everybody watching her. I love that. Just that tense moment of her doing it. It's like, yes. And her hands and everything ripping apart. Yep. And then the bomb goes off. But the bridge is saved. And I love the rain, the representation of the water from the explosion coming down. It looks like rain. And then Benedict coming in clutch, saving her. Benedict, my dude, we did not give him enough credit this season. He's absolutely amazing in this episode. And I love that Diethard's so silent during all this. Like, he's just taking it all in. Taking it all in. That the day was saved. The mission was accomplished. We did the thing. And they did the peace treaty signing. Like, Catalia gets to do that business. And then we get to cut them to Benedict and her. And I love that Benedict gave her his coat. To put on over it. And I love this concept, the idea of even though the war is over, it's not over. And that's a big thing that's so powerful about this episode, is that the idea that life does go on. Even after the war, after the battle. That's a big thing that I do. There's a lot of movies that do this really well. Again, I tie back to Grave of the Fireflies, like I talked about in episode 11. But episode 11 shows just like there's people left behind. And even when a war ends, in a way, the Brigadier General was right in a way, saying the war may be over. But for some, it's not over. Because like the father says to Violet immediately afterwards, he's like, even though it's over, even though the war is over, my son hasn't returned home. So the families, they're still grieving and suffering and still going through all this trauma, even though the actual battle is finished. And that's such an interesting message in this series. And it's not just this episode, it's throughout the series that war affects people even after the war is ended. Like, families are affected, lives are affected, futures are affected. Like, it's such a powerful statement of just how awful things get, even when the battle is over, but the conflict for these people keeps continuing. And Violet instantly relating to this father who's grieving their son not returning home, and they don't know where he is, and he's probably dead. But that's the same situation as Gilbert for her. And so she totally understands. And I love that she tells that father, like, I understand what you're going through. And that sincerity. Violet from episode 1 compared to Violet in this episode, what a contrast. What growth our girl has gone through this entire series. Because Violet in episode 1 would have told him just to shut up and deal with it. But Violet in this episode, going through everything that she's gone through, she empathizes. She understands what he's feeling. And that phrase that he says when he's like, I just want them to know that we loved you as our son and we'd have you as our son. It kind of mirrors what Aiden said back when he was telling her to write the letter to his parents. It's mirroring what he wanted to tell his parents, what this guy wants to tell his son. Thank you for being born our son. I love Violet's look in this last episode. I know it's iconic for her to have the big frilly blue dress and the blue overcoat and the belts and everything. Like, it's very, very, very anime, very elegant and regal. But I love stripped down Violet. I love the bare bones Violet, where her hair is in the loose ponytail. She has like the cropped collared sweater with the brooch tied to it. She has the green skirt. I like this kind of like bare Violet. I like this look on her because it's very like raw, and I like it. It's not a doll. I feel like the Violet, her auto memory doll outfit makes her look like a doll. This outfit makes her look like a person, and I like that a lot. I like that it's not frilly and it doesn't make her look like a doll. I like that a lot. And so yeah, they talk about the air show, the first one in 5 years. So it's been at least 5 years since the war started. But the idea that they're writing letters, that they're going to just send off letters to people, that they're going to just write, and they want her to write a letter. So Catalina was a dancer during the war. She was a dancer before. Interesting. And she knows all these soldiers, and she says most of them have died. And so she wants to write a letter to them. And that's interesting. Very interesting. So many of them have lost their lives, and she wants to write that letter. That's really cool. And so she wants Violet to write a letter to the Major, and it's what we've been wanting this whole series. But it's like, after everything that's happened, and everything in episodes 7, 8, and 9 that's happened, what could she write to him, you know? And so I want to get back to the letter. Just write how you feel and follow your heart. And then, of course, for Violet, that heart's right by that brooch. And then we go, I love that it cuts immediately to the dog toy that's on her desk. And then we go back to the flashback, and we get an extended version of this. And I didn't think we'd ever go back to this scene, but we get an extended version of it. And Violet did feel emotions. She's felt emotions this whole time, and we've known that. She's not been a tool or a robot. She's felt emotions this entire time. But, like we established episodes ago, she doesn't know how to express herself. So those emotions that she has, she's like, I don't know how to communicate what I feel. So you giving me orders, you telling me what to do, that's all I know. I understand that communication. And I need it. Communication's so essential for us as humans, whether it's through letters or through text or through calls or through emails or through physical conversation. Like, communication is so important for us as a society and as humans, that we need to communicate with others. But if you don't know how to communicate, then it becomes difficult. And Violet's kind of in that boat. She just hasn't been able to communicate and doesn't know how to talk. And I like that she says orders are my everything. And in that moment, when Gilbert's eyes narrow, he looks a lot like Diethard. Like, they do a close-up of his face, he looks a lot like Diethard. And the whole thing about orders, like showing that him and Diethard are a little similar in that regard. He says, you no longer need to follow my orders after this battle. You don't have to follow anybody's orders. You can be your own person, basically. He's like, don't listen to anybody else. And he's like, live free. Yep. And she says, is that an order? And then he gets mad. He's like, what makes you think it's an order? This conversation is so beautiful and sad. He's like, do you really believe that I think of you as a tool? And when he looks up and says that, it's like, his face. Because he's like, I don't think of you as a tool. And this whole conversation, he says, if that was the case, I wouldn't have taken you in. Because he's like, he's saying, I'm not like that. I wouldn't have just used you. That's not my deal. But he says, I wouldn't have kept you by my side all this time. Because, yeah, his brother was like, well, not his brother, but the military guys were like, just use her and discard her. And he's like, I wouldn't have kept you around if you were a tool. He's like, you should realize this. The reason I'm upset, this pain, is because he loves her. And I like that he gets mad. He's like, you have feelings. He's like, you have a heart just like I do. And he's like, and if you didn't, you wouldn't be reacting that way. And that's what got Diethard all like upset too, because the idea is Gilbert has known she's a person and not a tool, and he's been trying to treat her like a person and not a tool, and it just hasn't worked out that way. Whereas Diethard did treat her like a tool and did think that she was a tool. So Gilbert knows that she is human and capable of emotions, and he's been trying to get her to express that this whole time, and it's just not worked. Whereas Diethard didn't want her to express that emotion because that would prove that he's been doing these awful things to a person and not a tool. But it's just, it's like you're capable of expressions, you're scared, and you don't like being yelled at. And then to see Violet this early on forming tears, like even before the whole battle of the intense, and her clenching her hand like behind her, like you can tell she has all this emotion built up, and it's just, and she can't express it though. And Gilbert thinks that he's like, you're lying to me. And she's like, I am not. And that's when it all comes out. She's like, I don't understand it myself. She doesn't know what she's feeling. And then Gilbert gets that. And she's like, I only want to keep getting orders from you because that's all she knows. And that's that communication. She's like, if you're talking to me and I have you with me, I can go anywhere. And that's those orders are like a metaphor for that. And and damn. And I love that shot of Gilbert. It's the side profile. You get one angle of Gilbert like in the shadows, and then you get one angle on the other side of Violet in the shadows, and they're both facing each other. But Gilbert, his hands slowly releasing tension. Like that nonverbal, some of you have talked about the nonverbal expressions in this show, but that nonverbal, he's like, it's painful for me to see you that you view yourself as a tool. He's like, because you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't view yourself as a tool. And then he says that he's the one that made her this way, but it's like, no. And I kind of wanted her to address that in the letter, that he didn't make her that way. He's like, I still love you. And he's like, you still put your trust in me after everything I've done. And it's, Gilbert, like just, Gilbert. I hate that. I hate that. And I know that the mother said, and then we go back to the you've done nothing wrong. And we go back to right before Intense when he tells her that he loves her. Because that's the last thing he wanted to tell her. Because he thought he was going to die. And the mom, I know the mom says that he's in her heart. But it's like, I wish she could hear, her and see her now. And I guess if he's dead, he can. But, And so then, of course, Violet's like, I can't write. She tells Hodgins and Catalia that she can't write the letter because she has feelings. And she admits, she's like, I had feelings back then. She's like, I don't know what to say. And then Hodgins gives her a deadline. He's like, nope, you got till tomorrow. Chop, chop. Just make it happen. Like, he's like, the deadline's tonight. He's like, I'll take it to the office by tomorrow morning. If you can write it tonight, you should write one. Even if it's short, even if it's one sentence, like she wrote for Spencer. Yeah. And I like that. It seems like it's almost an order. And I know Violet doesn't take orders, but it almost seems like it is that in that case. So it's interesting. But then, just, you know that she says, when she says Mr. Bougainvillea is here, you know it's Diethard, but for a moment she doesn't, it's like it doesn't register to Violet that Diethard would even come see her. So of course she thinks it's Gilbert. Of course she thinks it's him. And then I like that as soon as she looks around, has the brooch, and then he says over here, and as soon as she hears the voice, it's like her face falls. And that's such good animation, like her face just falls and she's like, oh, it isn't him. It isn't Gilbert, it's you. But I want to notice, they show Diethard's hand on the bench clenched in the same way that Gilbert's fist was clenched when he was mad at her because he thought she was thinking of herself as a tool. It was clenched the exact same way. And then after she talked to him, and he realized that she just couldn't communicate, it unclenched. So there's a part of me that wonders if Diethard is still thinking the same thing, that she just thinks of herself as a tool. But it's the same clenched fist. It's an interesting metaphor. Interesting symbolism parallel. And then they go to their house, which the house is nice. The Bougainvillea's got some beautiful estate. And of course the roof's violet. Of course it is. Of course it is. And I like that Diethard's trying to make small talk with her, which is at least progress. He's like, sorry to drag you away on your day off. He's like, I don't think you've been to our mansion. I should just mention this so you won't be surprised, but her memory's a little fuzzy. And I like that Dieter tells her that, because what he's saying is that in that moment, you know that the mom, if her memory's fuzzy, she probably isn't remembering correctly, and she's probably going to ask about Gilbert. In that moment, I was like, okay, she's going to ask about Gilbert and probably thinks he's still alive. And in a sense, Dieter's warning her. He's like, just trigger warning. She's going to probably bring up Gilbert, just so you know. But that just the fact that he's having a casual conversation with her this whole time with Dieter's character, even though he's been an absolute jerk and an awful person to Violet, I've wanted them to reconcile and move forward because, like I said in the last reaction, Dieter and his family are really her main connection to Gilbert. So if she wants to reminisce about Gilbert and keep him in her heart alive, I think she should keep in contact with his family, and that includes the mom and includes Dieter to an extent. So her and Dieter need to get along and be on equal terms for that to work. And it seems like we get to that point in this episode, at least where they're tolerant of each other. But man, the mom, she looks just like Gilbert and Dieter. She looks more like Gilbert. Everything. And then, yeah, those eyes, they're the same eyes. Maybe a little bluer, but... And then I like that Dieter's like, this is Violet, the one you wanted to meet. I thought she was going to give the mom the brooch. And that that's where she was going to leave it with her, but she doesn't. And then she says, it's Gilbert, not with you. And I like that her memory's fuzzy. And I like that Dieter, you see Dieter's, again, the micro expressions in the show. The micro expressions, like as soon as she says, is Gilbert not with you? He's like, and you can see his face tense up. Like he's like, and he goes to say something about Gilbert, and then Violet like walks in. And she's like, he's with me. And then she shows her the brooch. And she says the same sentiment that Violet does, that it's beautiful, like his eyes. And that word beautiful, like the first time Violet learned what it meant. And you could tell Violet's trying not to cry because she doesn't want to make the mom feel bad. She's trying to hold it in the best that she can. And she's like, yeah, it is beautiful. Like she's trying to hold it in. And I love just everything coming full circle with it flashing back to her and Gilbert, everything. And her hand shaking, holding it. She's like, it is beautiful. And then the big question, what was your relationship with Gilbert? And then she says, the major took me in. He raised me and employed me. But, yeah. And then the mom's like, no, I know you loved him. Like, it was more than just that. Like Violet saying that. I feel like Violet sells herself short in the moment because it's like, no, Gilbert's whole thing was that Gilbert didn't want her to remember him as just taking her in and using her under his employment. He wanted something. I get the impression from this episode that Gilbert wanted something more out of it. You're in the middle of a war. You can't really say that, you know. So I just feel like Gilbert wanted more out of the relationship, especially after it was over. But he also wanted her to be safe and move forward. So it's complicated. But the mom says, I know. And then when she says he passed away at the Battle of Intense. And Dieter's still there. And then Dieter's like, that's why you had her come here. It was, wasn't it? And so then Dieter leaves. But he doesn't leave. He stands outside the door so he can listen. She says it wasn't your fault. So I wonder if Dieter explained who Violet was and told her about it and maybe expressed his emotions about how he felt with it all. And the mom's saying it wasn't your fault that he's gone. You know, I think I think Dieter brought her there for Violet's benefit so that Violet could get closure with the family, with the mom who looks like Gilbert. To get that closure and say it's not your fault and that he's here with us still, you know, even if he's like, you don't have to carry that burden anymore. And you can tell she starts to get like just crying and she gets all tensed up like she's crying. And she's like, Diethard told me to give up on Gilbert already. And this is the line that gets me. Even though he can't do it himself. It's like Gilbert was so loved by his mother and his brother that Diethard tells her to forget about him, but Diethard can't forget about him. That's what gets me. It's like, because that's the emotional connection I was wanting between Diethard and Gilbert this whole time, and we finally get it. And that picture, we don't see the dad, but we see the two boys, and you see Diethard without the long hair when it was cut short. We still have those bangs. And little baby Gilbert with those eyes. My son is alive. In my heart. But he's still there with them. And that is why I'll never forget him. And yeah, I'm with Violet, like holding back tears. Even though it may be painful, I'll carry him in my heart. Because even now I love him. And she says it, and you know Violet's thinking the exact same thing. And that's when she starts crying. And she says, yeah. And she says, yep. Yep. And the mom just smiling. And Diethard standing right outside the door. Because, yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, just to give Violet that closure and seeing the two of them together. And then I like that she bows to him at the end. And him telling her, like, saying that, I love that he gets these last words where he tells her to live to honor his memory. Live a long life and then die. And he says that's an order. And she's like, well, I don't take orders anymore. He says that's my final order. And she's like, well, thank you, but I don't take orders anymore. I no longer need orders. She's like, I'm a person, so I'm not a soldier anymore. And then he says Gilbert didn't treat her like a tool like I did. That's why even though she lost both arms and her master, she's still standing. She'll never lose all the important things he's given her. Yep. It's I like that we get that closure with her and Diethard. I like that we get that closure and that they're at least on equal terms, where if they do need to comfort each other or talk to each other, that they're there. Because I think that's important that she has that connection back to his family, because the fact that they all loved him is, I mean, they have that all in common despite everything. And then she writes the letter. And it just And so we go back to all this. We see Luculia. It's great that she's there. I love her braid. I love her side braid that she's got going on. It all looks good. And she says that she wrote a letter to her parents who had passed. And so she's like, I'm sure it'll reach them. And then, of course, Iris ain't lost anybody in this war. So she just wrote a letter to herself. It's like, never change, Iris. Never change. That she'll be the number 1 doll. And it's like, It's like, you had Catalina to compete against, girl. And then, so Erica likes somebody. And are we to assume she likes Benedict? Are we to assume that she likes Benedict? I recently started liking someone. And then, of course, Iris is like, spill the beans. And we don't get to really know, but we assume that it's Benedict. And then, of course, Benedict is like, you want to know who I wrote my letter to? And, of course, Erica's like, yes, instantly. And Iris is like, okay. And then he said he wrote it to Hodgins. And everybody's like, huh? And then he's like, I'd be the future boss. I love it. And Hodgins like, you're going after my job? Why would you write that? But it's like, I could totally see Benedict taking over for Hodgins one day. I love it. Benedict's an MVP. Look at him rocking them shoes. He doesn't have his corset pants on. He has legit pants because it's cold. Unlike Catalina, who does not dress for the occasion. But then, yeah. And then she's like, oh, you're one to talk. Want me to share what Hodgins wrote? And then to Daddy's future daughter. Your trash can is filled with rough drafts, Daddy. And oh my God, Benedict saying the daddy line. Benedict saying the daddy line is the best thing in the world. I like that, daddy. Like that, just like, oh my God, I love it. Benedict, never change. But yeah. And then it gets heartfelt. He's waiting for you to be born. And then, so are we to assume, are we led to believe that Catalia and Hodgins are going to have a baby together? Are we led to believe that maybe? That's going to be Catalia and Hodgins? Is that where this is going? Is that what it's suggesting? And then Hodgins just slowly sinking in embarrassment. Oh my gosh. Just slowly sinking down. And that you fall in love with someone who loves you in return. Oh, Hodgins, that letter's so sweet that Hodgins wrote. It's like, oh, I want Hodgins to have a baby girl now. In the movies, I hope Catalia and Hodgins get together, and I hope they have a cute little red-haired girl. That'd be adorable. Be adorable. And then, yeah, all the letters come down. And then, so the one letter, I'm not gonna lie. I know we have 2 more movies, but I honestly thought, and it was gonna be the most cliche, cheesy ending, but I thought that the letter would come down into the field of violets, and I thought at the very end, we'd see a hand reach out and grab it. And it'd be Gilbert's hand, and he'd be alive. You know, because I'm schmaltzy like that, and I thought that would be great, but that would not be a good ending. No, that'd be too cheesy and ridiculous. But for a split second, I thought they were going to zoom in on that letter, and then a hand was going to reach out and grab it. But her letter, to my beloved Major Gilbert. To my beloved. Spicy Violet. And then, yeah, it reads kind of like Anne's mom's letter, where she says, how are you? I hope all is well. Where are you right now? And she talks about how she hopes that he's alive and that everything's okay. And talking about how the seasons pass and he's not with her, and she really wishes that he was. And so it's a very generic, but you can tell it's heartfelt, and it's simple. And that's really, she says, I'm still waiting for your return. Like she's not given up hope on him yet. And then I love that she explains, at first I didn't understand. I didn't understand any of your feelings. But she does now. We spent the whole series getting her to where she can understand emotions and learn what he was feeling when he talked to her, like all the flashback scenes and the new life that he's provided her. Yeah. And we cut back to all the different locations that she's wrote letters for other people. We cut back to all those moments, even with Aiden in that little shack. And I still believe that you're alive and out there somewhere. I do too, girl. I really wish he was. And that is why I will continue to live my life. So she's basically saying, like, it's not waiting for his orders, but she's going to keep living under the hope that one day she'll see him again. So she's like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to simply live. And if we should ever meet again, this is what I would tell you. It's like, as soon as now I understand what the words I love you mean. And we get that close-up of her face and crying. And that smile, that damn smile! She says, I love you. Nope. So it feels like there's closure, but at the same time, we get the closure with everything comes full circle. Everything's wrapped up. I mean, it does feel like the end of a series, but I want more. I want more with Violet and Gilbert and everything. And her crying at the end, all of it. I want more. And the tears falling and it landing on the Violet. I'm glad we have 2 more movies, because if it just ended here, I was going to be so sad. I was going to be really sad if it just ended here and that was it. That's the last we ever saw. This show leaves you wanting more, and at the same time it leaves you like emotionally drained. But in this episode and the last episode, I haven't felt emotionally drained. I haven't felt like so sad I've been like sobbing myself. I've felt like invigorated, like I want to see more with Violet, and I'm sure that's the intention. And so I'm glad that we get these other 2 movies, because I'm not quite ready to say goodbye to this series yet, as you can probably tell. So Yeah, I'm really curious to know your thoughts about the season finale. I really liked it. I really liked the closure that everyone got with Violet and Diethard, with everything coming full circle, with her finally writing the letter. And then I love at the end they're talking about the urgent request and everything. They talk about the urgent request, and it's just like, the funny thing is, then you hear like Benedict getting the tea and Hodgins yelling at him, and at first you think it's like an emergency, but then you realize no, it's just another day. A new day's happened. It's just a new day. And Violet's just living her life like Gilbert would have wanted her to, just day to day and just dealing with whatever comes her way. The one thing I didn't understand was what she had on the letter there at the very end. She has the one phrase wrote, and I'm trying to look at it, and it's like, you are something. Does it say you are my only love, or what does it say? I can't read the language, so I'm not sure what it says, but it's a letter and it's something. If any of you in the comments know what that letter, top of the letter says, feel free to translate. But she, yeah, I don't know what that says at the top. I'm assuming it's important. And then, yeah, and for a second there, she goes across the field and everything, and then she opens up the door and says she's the auto memory doll, and she looks surprised. Like, why does she look surprised? Who is it? She says, Violet Evergarden at your service. But who is it? Who is it? They say it's urgent. Who is it? I'm assuming, is that leading into the movie? Show, why you do that? Why you do that? Why you do that, Show? Come on. Well, you know. In any case, I'm very curious to know your thoughts about this series finale. We still have 2 full-length movies, as I've said 1,000 times in this reaction, because I'm reminding myself it's not over yet. No need for the tears yet. But so next week we're going to watch the first movie, and then the following week we're going to watch the new movie that just came out, and I'm pretty darn excited. So I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. I hope you all enjoyed the reaction. But in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll be back next week with Violet Evergarden, the movie. I'm excited. I'll see you all then. Bye.